In this message, I want to deal with the Great Reset, Part 3, the rise of a world socialist state. I believe this is my most important part here. The two previous sections were only laying the foundation for what I'm about to say here in this third part. The World Economic Forum, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and the Great Reset have already been dealt with, but I want to go further here in talking about the rise of socialism across the Western world. At Davos in Switzerland in January 2020, just at the beginning of this year, President Trump spoke for 30 minutes on the success of capitalism within America. At that great convention, he was surrounded by very powerful men and influences that were utterly opposed to everything that he was saying. But he made a stand for capitalism, for freedom, and for free enterprise. Now, this isn't a political video, but I want to show you what is happening in our world. We have watched for 4 years an unprecedented opposition to a man filling that office of the presidency. The media all joined together week by week for 4 years to attack that man, even from within the FBI and the CIA, even the leadership of the EU, the UN, the World Economic Forum, WHO, NATO, and many other groups, world businessmen, all united together with one voice for 4 years. That does draw my attention. President Trump has proved himself to be pro-Israel, pro-life, pro-evangelical Christians, pro-the nation state, but anti-globalist. He is a true capitalist in the true sense of the word. What is a capitalist? You look back to Thatcher in Britain and Reagan in America, and you see true capitalism. Capitalism is what has made the Western world, from Australia all the way through to Great Britain. This is what has undergirded it, a freedom and a liberty of conscience and of religion. Now, we are going to look at socialism, Marxism, and communism in part in this video. But I want you to understand these three systems are all economic systems. They are financial systems. So is capitalism. All of these ideologies present a certain economic system that affects the whole political strata of life. Now, we are Christians. And a real Christian, a real church, can function and operate under any type of government, whether it's a federalist, Republican, Democratic, or a communist government. We can operate, and none of that should affect us. Of course, there are consequences, but we are the Church of Jesus Christ. So in saying what I'm saying in this message, please understand, as I present these ideologies, we, the church, can operate in any nation, under any government. Whether we suffer or have great freedom, we are still to be the Church of Jesus Christ. Just since my last video, we look at what's been happening in the nations around us. The Bank of England just 2 weeks ago created £150 billion at the press of a button. It was created by the central bank to try and stem off the financial crisis that is staring us in the face. We have watched all across London, businesses close, as well as right across our world. As we entered a second lockdown, in London, on the very first night, there were massive demonstrations and protests of normal people taken to the streets. The police turned out in force and responded with great force against them. Just a couple of months ago, we seen the same police force even taking the knee at BLM events. And yet the media was silent about mass demonstrations in London, Berlin, in Italy, in Spain, in other nations of the world. They're very silent, and yet world media greatly promoted the BLM. I could go on to tell you many of the things that are happening in our world, but I'm giving you the context of what is happening. I believe we're in the midst of the rise of world socialism once again, and here in this message, let me prove it. The World Economic Forum website posted an article in this year in July 2020, and let me quote, "The Great Reset must place social justice at its center." It goes on further to speak about capitalism as we know it must be reformed. Quote, "In the post-COVID-19 world, there are 3 features that will need to be fully institutionalized as a part of the new local and global social contract." He then gives 3 points here, the World Economic Forum, of how they are going to implement the Great Reset. Listen to what point number 1 is, and I'm quoting here. "Capitalism and socialism will need to merge together." He goes on further. "The slow death of capitalism does not equate to a resurgence of communism. However, rethinking capitalism or giving capitalism a great reset means that capitalism and socialism will need to merge to create a productive and inclusive economic and social model. Wealth has become abundant thanks to capitalism, but it now needs to be more broadly distributed, as socialists have long called for." So we see here the World Economic Forum is saying the Great Reset. What does it mean? It is the merger of capitalism and socialism. Capitalism has to change. It's coming to the end of its life. That's what they're predicting. In a World Economic Forum video on YouTube in June 2020, listen to what it was titled, "Why We Need to Rethink Capitalism." In that video, they're pressing the button on the world order and resetting it. Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, who we've dealt with in these videos, in an article by him in Time magazine released on the 22nd of October, just before the election, it was titled this, all about the Great Reset. "A better economy is possible, but we need to reimagine capitalism to do it." Do you see what's happening here? The Great Reset, the 4th World Industrial Revolution, all that's happening at the minute is to change capitalism. And yet that is what has made our Western world. We have had a response over the past week from the world media realizing that we're exposing these things. The New York Times 7 days ago wrote up an article saying that the Great Reset was a baseless conspiracy theory, and that people like me are spreading misinformation. What is very interesting, as they released that article, one of their own columnists from the New York Times was sitting on special lectures and talks about the Great Reset held by the World Economic Forum on the same day. You couldn't write this if you tried. Honestly, this is the truth. BBC also 4 days ago began to mock and make fun of those that see a conspiracy held within the Great Reset. Do you realize what I've just read you? That the World Economic Forum is saying that there's going to come a change of the economy. We need to change it at this time. And we're going to have to merge socialism, thought up the brainchild, and we'll come to it, what is at the back of it. But I want to show you, over the past week, many media news outlets are attacking this as a conspiracy theory. Just one of my videos released 6 days ago already has 66,000 watches on it in less than 1 week. I assure you, people are beginning to go, what is going on here? When I done my first video, very few of you knew what the Great Reset was. And there's many people now in many areas beginning to point it out over the past months and to expose what's wrong. Here in this short video, I want to deal with 3 statements and explain what they mean. In Klaus Schwab's book, And here is a front cover: COVID-19, The Great Reset by Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum. I've read this book over the recent past month. He published this in June time. And this book holds within it all the information of how they want to merge socialism and capitalism and create a new worldwide economic system. I believe this is the new rise of a socialist world government state. I believe this is the beginning of it. And things will not draw back until they have accomplished their plan. In his book, he makes 3 statements that I want to pinpoint and show you here. And as I reveal them to you, you're going to see the most prominent people in politics in our world are using these actual statements. And I want to warn you in this video, this is bigger than economics. As they talk about an economic change, they're really talking about the change from capitalism to socialism that will one day end up in something similar to communism. What are my 3 statements that are presented in this book by Schwab? Listen carefully. Build back better. Second of all, shareholder capitalism. And third of all, the social contract. I'm going to explain these words that most of us normally would never even consider or understand, but I've made it my job to understand them in what is about to happen. And these 3 terms are vital to understand how they're trying to create a global socialist state. This is it, my friends. If you know Bible prophecy, I believe we're at the beginning of so much of Bible prophecy coming very quick to pass. Now, what is this build back better? Let's start with this build back better. You have all heard it by now, I am sure. What is the Build Back Better plan specifically? This term was only really used widely by the World Economic Forum in the context of the Great Reset material. That's where it originated. That's where it had its source and beginning. It was used very often by them in their headlines to articles about what they were going to do. Build back better. And going back to the year 2016, 4 years ago, the World Economic Forum has constantly been using this to prepare for the Great Reset. The World Economic Forum in July of this year, 2020, released one article. Listen to what it was called. To build back better, we must reinvent capitalism. Here's how. In their article on their own website, and you can find the link to it below here, but in that article, they're saying build back better is the reinvention of capitalism, and they're going to tell you how they're going to do it. It's an entire green agenda within it, and governments are beginning to step in line with it and repeat the motto of build back better. It is a code word, it is a phrase, and it is a slogan. You Americans obviously know that Joe Biden began in July to use the term build back better. It became his platform motto to stand against Trump in the next election. Also, Boris Johnson first mentioned build back better in May. Now, since September, right through until the past week, he is constantly talking about build back better. This is becoming a dominant theme amongst world governments, political leaders in the Western world, and it's no accident. Back in May, a few months ago, the UN began to use it. The World Bank began to use it. In April, the month before that, Greenpeace, the Friends of the Earth, and the Joint Council of the Welfare of Immigrants launched a new joint campaign called, guess what? Build Back Better. Over recent weeks and the past month,